The common person would bring a lamb to the high priest. And this couldn't be just any old lamb. You couldn't bring one that you didn't want anymore. You couldn't bring one that you knew was sick. You couldn't bring one that you had taken from someone else's flock. This had to be a lamb that you had raised. And on the Day of Atonement or in Passover, sometimes people would use a special lamb. But he would bring it to the gate, and he would meet one of the regular priests that were dressed in all white. Not dressed as I am, but dressed in white. And that priest would come, and he would ask him a few questions. And he would say, "What family do you represent?"
The Barbarossa family.
You represent the Barbarossa family. So you're the man with the blessing, the head of the household. Is this your personal lamb?
Yes.
Well, he would take this lamb. And remember, a lamb is a sheep, but lamb designates how old it is, which meant it was a year or younger. And he'd take and check this lamb. And you know, you're not supposed to bring one with all its teeth all broken or some kind of fungus in the ears and you know that it's sickly. It can't have an eye that's been poked out or it's blind. It can't have a leg that's broken. It can't have mange underneath the backside over here. This lamb represents your heart. And he's representing his whole family. So he can't just bring anything. So when he comes to the gate, that regular priest, that ordinary priest, checks this out. And after he checks it out, he asks him what he is bringing this lamb for. And the Barbarossa head of the household might say, this is a sin offering. And if it's a sin offering, then I can tell that he's a common person because he brought a lamb. If he had brought some other type of sacrifice, it might tell me his status. But his status wasn't important. What was important is that you had the appropriate sacrifice for the specific sin. And remember, the sin offering is sins against God when you've broke God's heart. So he would take this lamb, inspect it, and then he would instruct him to come on through the gate and then meet maybe the high priest or another priest at the brazen altar. And I would see him coming, and I would once again ask him this question. Who do you represent?
The Barbarossa family.
The Barbarossa family. Is this your personal lamb?
Yes.
So this is a lamb that you have culled out of your flock over the last couple of weeks, and you have nurtured it. Maybe your kids have washed it and brought it inside the tent at times. And if they're like kids, you know, they get attached to it. They might even give a name. So when he brings this lamb, it's a personal lamb. This one is tugging at the hearts of the family. This isn't a lamb that they've went and got from someone else's flock. This isn't a lamb that none of them knew. This is a lamb that represents their heart. Their tears are going to be behind this. They don't want to give up this lamb because this is an innocent lamb. And why does this lamb have to offer its life? Because it's going to be a substitute. Because the wages of sin are death. The penalty must be paid for. So this represents their lamb. I believe that's why Jesus probably had a difficult time during the Second Temple period or Herod's temple when he came and he saw that people were selling defective pigeons and they were ripping off the poor and the house of prayer had become a den of thieves. He saw a bunch of hucksters. Just a bunch of people getting into the religious system to make a buck off everybody else. Because people had traveled from all over. This was one of the 3 commanded feasts that every male had to send a representative of the household to Jerusalem. Here at the tabernacle, during the time of Moses and Aaron, same thing, but they were already surrounded They didn't have to travel to Jerusalem because they weren't in the promised land yet. So this is your personal lamb.
Yes.
I accept this. Now, the next thing that would happen is very interesting. And if you get nothing else, remember this, because there's some common mistakes. Many people believe that this lamb was given to the high priest, and the high priest sacrificed it. It's not true. This lamb does not represent my sin. This represents the sin of the Barbarossa family, the sin of the McMinn family, the sin of the Harmon family. It's not for the high priest. He would have to bring a bull. This is the common person's, the lamb. So who sacrificed it then? We're going to see. Would you kneel down? The one that brings the sacrifice, this is their substitute. He kills the lamb. He kills the lamb. He kills the lamb. All the high priest does is he puts this into the tender hands of this head of the family, the man with the blessing, so to speak. And he gives him some simple instructions. He says, I want you to hold the lamb. And we don't take the blood. There's life is in the blood. And this represents your family. This is your atonement. This tells us the condition of your heart and that you have remorse. And we don't butcher this animal. And so what I want you to do is there's two veins, two jugular veins on the side of the neck. And I want you to do it this way. It's specific. We've been doing this for ages. And this is the only way that we do this. And I want you to take your hand, do like that. And I want you to reach around his neck. And I want you to gently, with your thumb and this finger, I want you to, we don't want to hurt him. I want you to gently squeeze those jugular veins. Because eventually he's going to get lightheaded and he's just going to kind of fall asleep. This is the kosher way. This is the holistic way. This is the only humane way to take the life. Because this blood here represents your family. And so this little lamb, a year or less older, it finally just kind of unconsciously goes to sleep. And he leaves that hand there. And then I ask him to take the knife in this hand, and I want you to nip that vein there, and I want you to nip that vein there. And then as the high priest, I will catch the blood. The blood must wash over your hand. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of... What can make me whole again? Nothing but the... And I save this blood. And the man with the blessing stands with me, and he holds that lamb gently. And I have the blood that represents the life of this sacrifice in the golden bowl. And this is where some of this I will take. And at the appropriate time I may pour some out at the base of the altar. But this is the blood. This is the blood that would be put on the horns of the altar, or on the horns of the golden altar of incense, or sprinkled. Seven times. his sin caused the death of the lamb. Then the high priest would require him to stand and watch. No one else is inside here. The rest of his family's not here. He represents his family. He's entrusted with that. He is the father. He is the father of this clan. So the high priest takes this lamb. And remember, he would go up on a ramp. The fires would be stoked. And he would take this little lamb that represents the Barbarossa family. And he would lift this lamb before God. If I be lifted up. He says a prayer in regards to the Barbarossa family. And this little lamb is sacrificed.